Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Manifest. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we're picking up pretty quickly after the events of last episode. Ben's locked up, and obviously Grace is coming to visit him to drop off some clothes for his arraignment. Obviously, he's apologetic about everything turning out the way it did, and obviously it's like he realizes he had the best of intentions, but he went about things the wrong way. And obviously for Grace, it's like she doesn't want to lose Ben because she feels like she's losing him in more ways than one, because he has become so obsessed with the calling, so obsessed with the lifeboat and everything like that she's worried that she's going to lose him, just kind of driving himself insane doing all this. But also the fact is he's doing crazier and crazier and crazier things because of it. It's just an aspect of her life she had somewhat gotten acquainted with, and just like, all right, this is just part of things, especially with them trying to solve the death date and everything, and now with like these trials by fire. But then it's just like things have just escalated more and more. And so obviously at Ben's arraignment, he's going to plead guilty to like some misdemeanors. Yeah, he's crossed some lines, but obviously he wants to, obviously try and take admittance for what he's done. Judge is super against him because like, oh, you're an 828er. Like, yeah, like immediately I'm like, her tone and stuff like that, I'm like, it's like, because his lawyer was like, shouldn't you recuse yourself? And she's like, no, I'm speaking facts. It's like, it sounds super accusatory, because in her mind it's like, oh, you 828ers have been able to slide with what you've been up to and stuff like that, so like I'm going to be, but it's like, it sounds like you coming into this with a prejudice. You're supposed to be impartial, and it just seems like you're automatically against him because he's an 828er. But also, like, apparently, can judges just straight up be like, yeah, I'm not going to recuse myself? It's like, I guess it's like, it's supposed to be like an honor system of like, right, it's like, oh, I don't see any bias in this. Like, you not seeing any bias in it is bias. Like, it's like, I think it's kind of a bit of a catch-22 type of thing. But I'm like, that kind of sucked. And like, she's just trying to throw the book at him. So it's like, what is your, plea or whatever? So it's like, Ben's like, not guilty. She's like, all right, $500,000 bail. And it's like, wait, what? Because Mick was all about like, no, we're going to, all right, do this the right way. Like, she's like, I'm going to be a cop and handle this. She didn't expect things to turn sideways like this. Like, Ben was going to like, right, I crossed some lines, I did some stuff. The sad thing is, that's just going to send him spiraling a little bit more. Or it doesn't just send him spiraling a little bit more, it sends him spiraling a lot more, because now it's like, crap, I'm in jail. The fact of the matter is, it's a $500,000. Like, for him, it's like, I can't do anything, which Mick is like, no, you need to take a step back. You're like, you not thinking things through, you rushing, like, losing your mind like this, it's the reason why you're here in the first place. But for him, it's like, there's holes in the lifeboat may be sinking, like, I need to, like, be out there to do something about these callings. But she goes, I think the lifeboat is already sinking. It's already sunken. He's like, wait, what are you talking about? And she tells him about Sanvi, because she had talked to Sanvi earlier, and Sanvi's like, I'm gonna head to town. It's gonna take about 6 hours for me to get there. Like, I promise I'll explain everything. So she's thinking like, again and again, she's thinking like, Sanvi's avoiding judgment and stuff like that. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do as a cop, but let him know about the major. And I was so curious what his situation, what he was going to say. And for him, it's like, no. Like, obviously there had to be a reason why. Like, obviously it was in self-defense. She's like, of course it is. But the fact is that, Sanvi kind of wanted to do this. Like, she wants to turn herself in. This is her path towards redemption. But for Ben, it's like, no, like, the fact is, Sanvi does more good for us being out there, because she is, in her own way, trying to solve this as much of us. And, like, if we kind of lock her up, we're hampering our best chances at that. So it's just looking all kinds of sideways for them under these circumstances. So once again, it's like we're back to Ben and Michaela having such different opinions about like the approach to this whole situation. Obviously Vance ends up visiting Ben, letting him know, because both Michaela and Ben kind of get different points on like what's going on, because Michaela talks to her captain and Jared's in there, and it's like, yeah, it's not just the judge. In general, everyone's cracking down on 828ers. It's become like a very, very widespread thing. Even to the point, Vance is like, ever since you guys came back on a plane, like came back, there's been like kind of looking at you a little sideways, a little differently. So he's like, you're lucky you're still not just locked up at the airport this entire time, because it's been that type of thing. And because every agency is handling, and it's not just the U.S. This, obviously Michaela learns from her captain, it's a worldwide thing. There's even like an 828er that was being like locked up in like Singapore or something like that. It's like, wow, like this is spread like wildfire. It's like, man, you thought you had to deal with some rough patches last season because of Xers. Now things have even escalated that even people who weren't necessarily Xers are kind of sliding to be like, the governments are trying to decide what to do about you guys. It's literally the world against the 828ers to a certain extent. And obviously you have Michaela, who's kind of caught in between as both a cop and an 828er. She's trying to be both, but even Ben's telling her, it's like, you can't toe that line anymore. You're going to have to pick a side. You know, for her, it's like, me being a good cop should come before me being an 828er. But in the law, like, especially in law enforcement, she's kind of getting a stink eye, at least, like, because, you know, some of the higher-ups are trying to decide, well, what do we do with her? She's a cop, so she's kind of in review, and it's like, wait, what? So, like, everything she's ever done, every case she's going to be worked on, like, any corners she cut is going to be under that purview as well. So it's like, why am I being judged for being a good cop? I've done the right things. I'm trying to continue to be a good cop. Because truth be told, Michaela's never been a bad cop. She's always been a good cop, even since returning. Like, she just had the advantage of the calling's got to point her in the right direction in certain cases, so. But also at the same time, you have Vance saying, like, there's not much he can do because a lot of this is above his pay grade because he's got to, once again, this is just a high-level government situation on how they're planning on handling the 828ers. So, obviously, he get post bail because Grace was able to get the the money necessary to post his bail and everything. And so, as he's leaving, Egan's getting arrested, which Egan's immediately like, oh my God, Ben, you're working with Vance, you're working with the NSA and stuff like that. It's like, it's not even like that. He's like, you're a traitor to us all, and trust me, none of us are going to trust you again, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh God, this is going so wrong on so many levels. It's just like one thing after another. Like, I think things have, like, I don't think things have ever been this dire and this fallen apart before, this broken. And so it's just like everything's just going wrong. It's like they can't catch a break. They can't win. At least in some cases, in the past, you felt like, oh, these are small victories. It's like any small victory just feels like it's slipping from their fingers, slipping through their fingertips. So obviously Ben comes back home, but learns from Grace, that she had to put out a second mortgage. She had to pull out the money she was investing in a restaurant, which obviously, like, that was like, you know, her like homage to her brother, like keep her brother's like dream alive. And it's like now she had to pull back on that. So Ben's feeling even more guilty because it's like, right, he's got that on his shoulders, the guilt of handling things that way. Plus he's got to deal with this whole calling situation, which him and Michaela ended up getting, as well as we find out Angelina and Cal. Which is basically that, like, them being on fire and them silently screaming, and it's just like, dude, the blows just never stop coming, you know? So, which, speaking of Angelina and Cal snuck Angelina back in the house, and once again, it's just that weird thing of, like, because Cal believes she's there for a reason, and it's like, is it necessarily a good reason? I don't know, because obviously it's been the same conversation about Angelina that it has been about, Ben, that you're trying to do the right thing, you're just kind of going about it the wrong way. Once again, considering her circumstances, it's not too crazy that she's a little bit of an oddball when it comes to this whole circumstance. It's like, it comes off once again a little like, oh, you might be a little unhinged, but at the same time, considering everything you went through, it's understandable, but it's just still like, I don't know, you know? It's just kind of, she's such a big question mark for me. Whether she is going to be like she is on the right side of things, or whether it's going to be like, there might be, I just don't know when it comes to Angelina. But obviously Cal's working with her because she's, you know, and obviously it's like, she's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be here, but Cal's like, no, you're supposed to be here. And for her, it's like, you're the only person that's been nice and believed in me the entire time. Obviously Grace turned on her, Olive turned on her, even though they were like, oh, we're going to be friends and stuff like that. It's like, yeah. And even like the whole Eden thing, Eden being like mama around her, I'm like, oh, that's not going to do well for her psyche. Because she's going to be like, oh, yeah, no, oh, I knew it. You're my guardian angel. And I'm like, it's like, even Cal was like, yeah, it's setting those curtains on fire. It's like, no, I was never going to hurt Eden. I would never do that. It's like, I mean, you were trying to prove a point that she's going to protect you and stuff like that. Once again, you just kind of went about it the most kind of unhinged way, but I'm so conflicted when it comes to Angelina because I just don't, once again, she's a big question mark. I don't know. So obviously Cal is relying on her instead of kind of relying on his family, because it's like, obviously later on, like, he's getting this calling and he's like, oh, maybe it's up to me and you to solve it. And when it comes time to tell his parents, like, Ben's kind of like, no, maybe we should go at this. But then Grace is like, no, don't. I'm tired. You've done enough for the callings. Like, I don't want you guys getting dragged further into this. The fact of the matter is, like, you know, you can work on it, just not now. Look at your situation. You got an ankle monitor. Like, you're stuck here. You're on house arrest. Like, Ben, you keep doing this and things are just going to get worse and worse and worse type of thing. You know, it's just like, things are already bad enough. And it's just like, so he's kind of caught between, because, like, obviously Cal's like, oh, you're not listening to me, you know. Because sad thing is, like, they don't have the same experiences with the callings necessarily that Cal does, because Cal has a very special connection that's really hard to, like, for anyone else to understand. And I mean, also, you are a kid and everything, so, like, of course they're going to protect you and kind of take it. But for him, it's like, I need to be the one to do it. You know, he was reluctant at first. It's like, but then it's like, maybe I should bring my dad in on it. But Angelina's like, no, like, those burns, did you fall on something? Did you burn yourself? It's like, no. So they're not man-made. So following this calling through is actually what's going to heal it. She's like, I'm going to be the Aaron to your Moses. Because I'm here to help you. But then, like, obviously I'm skipping around a little bit, but, like, when the time came, she's like, no, you have to do this on your own. And he's like, well, I thought you said we're in this together. She's like, I'm here just to lead you. At the end of the day, the journey is yours to complete. I'm like, first and foremost, it's like, you're leaving a little kid to do that. It's like, that's so irresponsible in so many regards. Even later on, it's like, she's like, just keep driving. I'm like, where are you having him where are you going? Like, you just kind of abandoned Cal in that situation. I don't know what you're doing, what you're thinking, what's going through your mind. I'm like, that's still not. And you're kind of like making him kind of hide stuff from his parents, and you're like abandoning him. It's like, because also it's like, when you break down all the religious stuff that's kind of going on, and she being the, like, extremely religious person that she is, she probably believes it's like, no, this is a trial and everything, and just people from the Bible were probably young when they had to kind of go out on their own to do stuff. So it's like, she probably thinks like, no, Cal's chosen, he's a special one with all of this, so he needs to kind of do this on his own. Maybe that is the case, maybe it's not. There's stuff coming up later that you came up in the episode that makes you go, maybe Cal's making the wrong moves too, because obviously, like, because the thing is, the burns are spreading on his body. It started on his shoulder, but then, like, he gets his stomach, and it gets his stomach, and it's just like, what are the callings trying to tell them? What are they trying to warn them about? You have Sanvi showing up because Vance is like, yeah, we might not have the driftwood anymore, but we still have something else. We can apply what we learned from the driftwood and apply it to this other piece that's connected to the puzzle, and that's the tail fin. So they start activating that, and then Sanvi, like, confronts Vance about it, but then Vance is like, no. He's trying to say, like, her way of handling things is like, bring back the driftwood. It's like, I can't. I threw it. And it worked out because that fissure in the ground that you guys are seeing, I closed it. It was volcanic stuff coming up, but it's like, you know, for her, it's like, Vance is only trying, like, he's just chalking this up to coincidences and stuff like that, because he's like, oh, there's earthquakes around the world all the time, but it's like, the fact of the matter is the location and stuff like that, it's too much of a coincidence. It happens just when we're working on a driftwood again and again. Like, come on, like, you're avoiding the signs, because I think for Vance, it is a situation where it's too important to him. Like, this isn't just your job as an NSA, it's because it's a grand mystery. You want to be, I think on some level, you want to be able to know, say, like, hey, I helped solve this thing. Like, I was here to figure, like, he's so enticed by the answers, just like all the scientists is, that he's not being, you know, he's kind of sliding more enemy than ally nowadays with this whole circumstance, you know? And she's begging him to stop the testing, but for him, it's like, I may have gotten, like, I'm the reason why you got kind of twisted in your head that, like, I'm an NSA agent first and foremost, and I think you got it twisted like I'm your friend, like I'm going to listen to you and stuff like that. And he's like, that's my fault. Sanvi, you gotta go. And she's like, are you firing me? It's like, I should be doing a lot more. And it's like, oh, dude. Like, the fact is, he won't listen to her is the worst thing about it. Because it's like, you should be listening to Sanvi. Like, she is super smart. She's the reason why you've gotten as far as you have so far. Anyway, but you're not, like, she finds something, like, the fact is she figured out the sapphire thing and everything, and it's like, and you're not gonna listen to her? Like, that's stupid on your part. Like, once again, it's like, because you think you got, was it Dr. Gupta, like, you think you have her, and the fact is, you're like, we're so close to unraveling this mystery, and the fact is, you want to, like, try and, like, understand it so you can apply it to yourselves. It's like, whatever this is made a plane disappear for, like, 5.5 years, and this is related to, like, Noah's Ark. Like, there's so much going on here that I'm like, this is that type of thing where you go, like, no. don't mess with stuff. You don't know what you're messing with. It's that type of thing. That's the biggest signs are flashing, saying you don't know what you're messing with, child. Type of situation, and it's like, what are you doing? So, it makes me feel so like, oh, Vance, you were just like 100% on our side. Granted, you were a little bit of an adversarial at certain points, but it's like, oh, you were on our side. Now you're sliding away from it just because it feels. I'm not trying to say this is for a fact, but it seems a little self-grandizing in the sense that it's, like I said, he just feels like he's almost going for the glory, and just to be able to say like, oh, I'm figured this out, that he's kind of turning a blind eye to a lot of stuff that should make him go, maybe there is something more to this. But obviously Michaela's trying to be there for both Ben and Grace, because Grace is like, for her, it's like Ben's in the garage. It's just like her entire life is kind of falling apart. She's kind of going through hell right now, which, Michaela's trying to say, stay with it. The fact is, you're going to have to, that's just things, life in general. Like, you've been kind of going through hell and you kind of found your way back. And it's like, yeah, you might still go through hell over the next 3 years, but that you'll come out the other side with both your son and your husband. She's like, I went through hell, but I went through hell with Zeke, and he came out on the other side, and he's here. And she's like, I want to be on the other side with him as well. So when this is all said and done, so just kind of, keep going. That kind of focus on the end goal. That when this is all said and done, when the death date comes, your son and your husband will still be here, and that's what kind of matters most. So Ben is kind of throwing himself into work and everything, and obviously for Michaela, she has to be like, look at what this is doing to Grace. Like, she is scared that she's going to lose you, and he's like, you're right. Because obviously he had the calling, and it's like he got emails or voicemails from other passengers who also got it. So whatever this is, it's spreading like wildfire to the point like many other, because he was saying like at least 20 passengers contacted him about having it. So, it's like what it's all about, what it's trying to tell them, who knows. Then obviously the Sanvi thing comes up, and it's like, okay, so it's like, you told me how I was handling things was wrong, and you were right. Look at my ankle monitor and everything, like me being on house arrest. But he's like, now I'm telling you, Mick, you're going about this wrong. But for her, it's like, no, I'm being a good cop. I'm doing what a good cop would do. Once again, she's towing that line. Because hell, even she had that conversation with Egan. She tried to set him straight. It's like, yo, my brother isn't like that. He posted bail. It's like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's like, he's just as bad as Vance, where it's like he sees what he wants to see. He wants to act like he's so knowledgeable. It's like, shut your mouth. All right, shut your mouth. Your boy Ben has done so much. It's like he's even put himself through hell. It's like, oh yeah, but he's like, just shut up, Egan. Just shut up, Egan. It's like, you weren't here dealing with everything like the Stone family was. They've been here since day one, figuring things out, doing the callings. They've been through hell. They've made sacrifices, and it's like, we don't know your full story. You don't know. You kind of take advantage of the callings and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I get a little bit on the side, and it's just like Ben has just done so much that a lot of people don't know. Like, him and his family have helped so many other passengers, but it's like, you come out of the woodwork knowing nothing about them. And you're just making these snap judgments about, him being like, yeah, but I'm basically saying that he's going to be the leader that the 828ers need and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, you're kind of, ironically enough, you're a lot like Adrian, which Adrian kind of pops up this episode. We'll get to that soon enough. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it, which I think that's fascinating, because he runs into Adrian. It's like, the run-ins with 828ers just never end. And it's like, Adrian got picked up, and he was like, for him, it's like, yeah, the nightclub fire is like, we haven't seen you since. Obviously, that was like, he did pop up post after that, and he did like help out with a circumstance, and so they just kind of let him go. But now he's arrested again. But because the last time I believe we saw him is when he had the calling about the 3 shadows. I believe that's the last time we had seen Adrian, and obviously that ended up being the 3 meth heads. So there's that. And he's saying that this is what that fire was nothing compared, that like God is bringing his almighty wrath. It's saying that this is God punishing them. But like, that's also the thing of like, why is that, what is this? Like, is this us? Because like Khaled brought it up earlier, like, are we being punished for something we did? And he's like, right, it almost does seem like some kind of punishment. But Michaela comes in and ends up talking to Sanvi, and Sanvi lets her know what was what. And it's like, obviously for her, she let the scientific possibilities kind of get the best of her. But for her, it's like, Vance isn't listening to her anymore. Rather than treating me like the scientist I am, he's treating me as like an 828er, like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like almost like, oh, you have a bias in this. She has motivation to get this right. Because she's so motivated to make sure her and the other passengers survive, you should be more willing to listen to her, but maybe that's all it gets chalked up to. It's like you're an 828er, so you're going to see patterns here that aren't necessarily there. So maybe that's his justification. But obviously for Sanvi, it's like everything she's tried to do is just kind of backfire. She's tried to work at Eureka, and that just, it just lies after lies just kind of led us to where we are. And so Michaela's like trying to turn her in, but then like she hears from her captain, yeah, that 828er in Singapore, he got executed. And she's like, wait, what? And so for her, it's just like, it's frustrating. And now it's like she's being put on death duty. It's like, well, I'm being punished. I've literally done nothing wrong. Yeah, I might have cut some corners here and there, but I've always kind of done the right thing. Like even those corners getting cut, ain't like she like falsified evidence or anything like that. It's just like she had some higher power help leading her in the right direction. So I wouldn't even call that necessarily cutting corners, but whatever. The fact is, it's like I'm being punished. She's like, the fact of the matter is we made a deal that like I'd handle things the right way, like no cutting corners. I try to be the quote unquote good cop. And even though I went against my instincts and my gut feelings, and it's like the captain's like, yeah, you have been good, but it's like you shouldn't have been cut. Like you shouldn't have had to be made. A deal shouldn't have had to be made for you to kind of do things the right way. But for her, just like she believed in the system so much, but now it's like the system is kind of against me and everyone like me. Like we are being persecuted for something we had nothing to do with, and we're being treated like what about our rights and everything? It's like that's all kind of getting cast out the window. So just Michaela was just like, I can't support a system that won't like look out for me. It's like the system is supposed to be fair, and it's not acting fair. It's like because like the rules haven't changed. But it's like the rules haven't changed for everyone else, but suddenly they have changed for the 828ers, and it's just like at this moment she chooses being an 828er over being a cop because she sees what's wrong. So she leaves with Sandy. She tells Jarrett she quit, because Jarrett was trying to have her back earlier in the episode, saying like whatever comes this way, like I'm gonna be the one reviewing your files and everything. Any case files they want to like bring up is like I'm gonna be the one reviewing because I know everything you've done is because the callings left you. He's like, I got your back. It's you and me versus the world, and it's like. It hasn't been you and me against the world in a long time, Jared, Because it does seem like, obviously, there is that thing of, like, right, there is a little bit of, like, something still there between them type of thing, so I thought that was... But it seems like that is kind of fading away, especially because of the conversation she had with Grace about Zeke, so, I don't know, because Zeke is kind of catching that vibe, like, oh, there's still some I keep saying that unrequited love, there's still some feelings there, is what I'm trying to say, so... I'm sure Michaela's just kind of like with everything going on, it's just like her heart's just, especially seeing Jared. It's always going to be a hard thing seeing your ex with someone else, but especially because it's like, right, you're with the daughter of the major, the person who kind of did what she did to 828er, so like you're going to obviously feel a certain way about things. Then you also have Ben and Grace talking. He's apologizing. It was like, I shouldn't be so relentless, but for her it's like he's like, I shouldn't risk everything. She's like, no, risk it all, just don't get locked up in jail. But the fact of the matter is I want my son and my husband around when this is all said and done, so do whatever you need to do to keep this lifeboat afloat. Just don't get yourself into this type of trouble again, so do whatever you need to, like, because I want my family together when this is all said and done. And so obviously, Sanvi's there, Michaela, and they obviously all talk, and, Sanvi's apologetic, but Ben hugs her and is like, nah, it's okay. Like, the fact of the matter is, I'm just glad to have you back on our side with all of this. Obviously, they had the calling again, but then they start figuring out, like, obviously it's like, why did the tail fin pop up again? And it's like, well, and, Sanvi's like, right, it disappeared because I killed the major, and then it reappeared because of the earthquake and everything, and obviously the driftwood's had been causing earthquakes, so now it's a situation of the tail fin is going to cause even more issues, so what are we, especially because they had another calling, and this one was having them in front of like a volcano, so obviously the same calling that Cal has been having. So now they're under the impression like what we most likely have to do is destroy the Telfin. If the Telfin's destroyed, then that kind of prevents like all this craziness from happening. It's kind of, but like the thing is, none of them have access. Ben's on house arrest. Michaela quit. Zombie's on the out with Eureka, so it's like none of them have access to get close to the Telfin. But then we find out who ends up right at their front door, none other than Cal. He's like, I'm here to help with the Telfin. So like maybe him helping is what sets everything in motion, because he thinks he's helping, but maybe like it's warning him. Because it's like these callings are so, because like the thing is, I guess it comes down to your own choices. This is what it's supposed to be. Your choices are supposed to be your decisions. So it's like whatever you do, it has to be your choice, but you will suffer the consequences. And maybe it's like, it's because it's like you're making things so unclear that it's like you're making this like, are we doing the right thing? It's like, I can't tell you whether you're doing the right thing or not. It's just you have to figure it out for yourself. So is Cal doing the right thing by going there? Because he's going to be giving them a hand with figuring this all out. And maybe that might be the thing that changes Vince's mind of like, maybe he feels bad. It's like, wait, we're doing this, a kid, get him involved. It's like, no, like this could end up hurting him, especially if Ben finds out. Like, I was all about helping this family at one point in time, and now it feels like I'm stabbing him back. Maybe he'll feel like that. Maybe he won't. Because I'm sure the doctor, that she would like feel like, oh no, like this is great because we're kind of getting where we need to be with all of this, because he's the key piece in all of this. He always has been, and especially with this Telfin thing. Obviously we've seen like how it reacted to Ben, but who knows how it will react to Cal, how all of this will ultimately, play out. There's just so many moving pieces that it's like it's overwhelming, and you're just like, I have no idea how this is all going to ultimately play out. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything ends up taking us going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.